All right, let's dive into something a little delicate today. I mean, how often do you hear people casually chatting about female ejaculation?
Not very often, right?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those topics that can feel, well, kind of hush-hush.
Definitely a bit taboo.
But, sometimes those taboo topics are the most fascinating, don't you think?
Absolutely. Especially when there's so much confusion and misinformation swirling around.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, between the whole squirting debate and the lack of open conversation, it's easy to feel like we're missing out on a piece of the puzzle.
Right, a pretty important piece, potentially.
And that's why we're here today, ready to get real and go deep on female ejaculation.
Love it.
What it is, why it's often misunderstood, and what you might want to consider when exploring it yourself. We've got some really interesting sources lined up, so get ready for some aha moments. This might just change the way you think about pleasure. Seriously.
I think what's so intriguing about this topic is that it's a real physiological phenomenon, but it often gets lost in a cloud of myths and whispers.
Yeah, it's like this hidden world of experience that many people don't even know exists.
And the fact that it's not something everyone experiences just adds to the mystery.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks. When we say female ejaculation, what are we actually talking about?
At its core, female ejaculation refers to the expulsion of fluid, but not from the bladder,
Wait, so it's not pee?
definitely not pee. This fluid comes from the Skene's glands. Have you heard of those?
I can't say I have.
Well, they're these often overlooked glands that sit near the urethra, and they're sometimes called the female prostate because of their similarities in structure and function to the male prostate.
Oh, wow, I had no idea.
And the fluid itself is typically clear, sometimes a bit milky, but definitely different in composition from urine.
Interesting. So what's it like?
It's been described as being kind of like coconut water, sometimes thin, sometimes a bit thicker.
Okay, that makes sense. So we're debunking the whole "it's just pee" myth right off the bat.
Myth busted for sure.
Yeah. But what about the G spot?
Yeah.
I feel like that always comes up in these conversations. How does that factor into all of this?
Yeah, the G spot definitely plays a role, at least for some women. Stimulating the G spot, which is an area on the front wall of the vagina, can trigger ejaculation.
So it's like a direct link.
Not necessarily. It's more accurate to say it's a possible pathway, but not a guaranteed cause and effect for everyone.
Right, because everyone's body is different.
Exactly. This is where self-exploration and communication with a partner, if you have one, becomes so important.
So it's all about figuring out what works for you, essentially.
Exactly. And speaking of figuring things out, let's talk about the experience itself.
Yes. Because is it just about the fluid, or is there more to it?
There's definitely more to it. Many women who experience female ejaculation describe it as incredibly pleasurable, often referring to it as a full-body climax.
Wow, a full body climax. That sounds intense.
It can be. And it's not just a metaphor. We're talking potential muscle contractions that go beyond the pelvic region, possibly linked to specific nerve pathways that differ from typical orgasms.
Oh, wow. So it's like a whole different kind of orgasmic experience.
Potentially, yes. And there's even anecdotal evidence suggesting an emotional release component, a feeling of deep catharsis.
So it's physical and emotional. No wonder there's so much curiosity around it. But realistically, is it something you can learn to do? Or is it more about discovering whether your body does it naturally?
I think it's less about training yourself to ejaculate and more about understanding your body's unique responses.
So it's more about exploration and discovery.
Exactly. And a huge part of that is comfort and open communication, both with yourself and any partners you're exploring with.
Communication is key, for
Mhm.
sure. I mean, it's hard to explore anything new without it.
Absolutely. And some people find that using toys, fingers, or a G-spot massage helps them experience ejaculation. But again, there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
It's all about finding what works for you individually.
Right. And it's just as important to remember that if it doesn't happen for you, that's completely normal too. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong or that your experiences are any less valid.
Yeah, it's all about letting go of expectations and just embracing the exploration.
Absolutely. And a crucial part of that is dismantling the stigma surrounding female ejaculation.
Oh, yeah, the stigma. It's like this big, unspoken shame cloud hanging over the whole topic.
It is, and it's so unnecessary. The idea that it's gross or weird is just plain wrong. It's a natural bodily function.
Yeah, it's like we need to shift from judgment to curiosity.
Exactly. And the more we talk openly and honestly about it, the less power those harmful misconceptions have.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening to this and they're hesitant to explore this part of their sexuality. What would you say to them?
I'd encourage them to approach it with an open mind and a sense of adventure. This is about your personal journey of pleasure and discovery. It's okay to have questions. It's okay to feel a little unsure.
Yeah, those are totally normal feelings.
They are. But don't let fear or shame hold you back from experiencing something potentially amazing.
So to kind of recap what we've covered so far, female ejaculation is a real phenomenon. Experiences vary, and it's all about personal exploration and communication.
You got it. And whether or not you personally experience ejaculation, the most important thing is to prioritize pleasure, consent, and open dialogue in all of your sexual experiences.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay.
And as a final thought for our listeners, remember that this deep dive provided information, but the most important exploration happens within yourself and with trusted partners.
That's where the real magic happens.
Happy exploring, everyone.
Have fun.